Welcome to the Purposeful CEO podcast, the space for passionate, driven leaders who aren't just here to build a business, but to lead a movement. If you're here to make a real impact, to lead with purpose and create a legacy that lasts, then you are in the right place. I'm Emma Campbell, leadership coach, mindset mentor, purpose activator, and mama to two cheeky little munchkins. And for the past 15 years, I've helped small business CEOs scale their team without breaking their culture and unlock their team's full potential. And my mission has always been simple: to help those doing good in the world to do even more good and inspire belief in what's possible for you, because it's all so possible. Let each episode be your reminder to pause from the hustle and come back to you, your why, your purpose, your reason for why you started, to trust that inner knowing and to lead from that place, because when you do, everyone wins. Let's dive in. Oh, hello. So excited to chat to you guys about this particular topic. This is one that I have been wanting to share on for such a long time, because I feel like it's something that I talk to every single new client about. And it's like one of the biggest mindset shifts and strategic shifts that they will ever take in how they look at who they bring into their team and into their family and into their business. And that is the topic of hiring. And you might have heard of that ethos of hire slow, fire fast. And it's such a simple and powerful one. And I think it's so worth reminding us, because we often do the exact opposite, don't we? And look, I have been guilty of this as well. So I definitely don't want to come at this topic from a place of like, hey, this is how you do it and you're doing it wrong and you're naughty and bad and all of the things. I want to come at this from a place of like, most people don't know this information, and it is, I guess, what I've found too, for a lot of clients, something that they almost have to learn the hard way, unfortunately, something I had to learn the hard way as well. And, because often where our tendency is to, hire fast, fire really slow, because it's super fun to hire new people, right? It feels good. It can be exciting to bring someone into your team. It usually brings lots of positive vibes and, positivity for the future and all of those sort of things. And so we're usually quite quick to jump on bringing someone into our business. You might have a chat with them or a coffee or something like that, and you just feel a really good vibe, and you're like, oh, this is a great person. It feels so good. And, you might tell yourself, I'm a good read of people. I can tell this is going to be a good person. And so you're like, yes, come on in, come and join the family. You get them set up, you kind of whip up a contract or an email or something like that. You bring them in, get them to work, and it's all fun and games for maybe the first few days, maybe the first week. And then slowly but surely, if you have kind of accidentally gone through that process of hiring fast, you might find that then some of the cracks start to show. That some of the things that you thought they were really good at, actually, they haven't done that before. They said they had experience with marketing. And actually, they have a marketing degree, but they've never actually done any digital marketing or created a marketing strategy before. And you're like, oh, okay, got that bit wrong. Oh, that's okay. You kind of sweep it under the rug, you make an excuse. And then there's more little question marks, and, things might just still feel a little bit off. You start noticing that they're perhaps not exactly what you thought they were, or maybe they're not super aligned to your values and your ethos and the things that really matter to you. And you find yourself I don't know, fixing their mistakes, maybe the team's noticing. Now it's starting to keep you up at night. Let me know if any of this is kind of resonating. And you know that something is off and you're going to have to do something about it. You know that there's a conversation that needs to happen, or you need to manage their performance. Oh, and you're like, damn it, why didn't I just hire a little bit more slow and, really do this process properly? Because there is no doubt about it. Once someone is in your business, once they are set up, once they are part of your team, part of your family, it is a lot more difficult to move someone on, rather than just spending a little bit longer during that hiring process to make sure that you have got the absolute best fit, that you are just so 100% excited about, bought into, that you feel so confident in. Because this is going to be someone that you invest so much time and energy and resources into, right? So it's worth getting it right. And if you have to go through that whole process of like letting someone go, like that in itself is a massive time and energy suck, right? And then you're like back at square one of having to like find someone new again. And so I want to share a really, really interesting fact with you that you may or may not know. And it may blow your mind a little bit. And I want to like really preface this by saying that I am like not one that's here for fear mongering or creating, I don't know, like stress, or like I'm not one of those sort of people. Usually I'm one to like move straight towards like, how can we fix this problem? How can we move towards a solution? And looking at all the positives and benefits of doing the right thing. And I also want to share a couple of facts with you, because I know the impact that learning this information can have on how you show up to your next hiring process. And that is just sharing a little bit about the true cost of one bad hire for your business. And I wonder if you can estimate, even in your mind right now, what you think the actual true cost of one bad hire might be for your business. And the way that it's usually estimated is a percentage of their overall salary. And what the research shows is that the estimated cost of a bad hire can range anywhere from 30% of their total salary. So if like, their salary was $100K a year, like $30,000, up to 200% of their salary. And obviously, like, this would depend on the role and the impact of their role, in terms of, if they were like in a business development role, and like how much impact that they would have on your clients, versus administrator role might have a little bit less impact. So, that's where that kind of variation is. But often what we kind of like estimate as the absolute minimum is probably like 50 to 100% of their salary. And let me help you understand why it is so much, because I think when you first hear just those numbers, you might be like, nah, that's not true. Like, I don't think ours would cost that much. But let me share what some of the costs are that you might not even be thinking about or taking into account. So there's, of course, recruitment costs. So like job advertising fees, if you're using a recruitment agency, that can be a pretty steep cost as well. Or the actual time spent by your hiring manager in screening CVs, putting the ad up, interviewing, selecting candidates, all of those sort of pieces. And if you think about your hiring manager's hourly rate and how much time they spend on that piece, that in itself is already a really big chunk of time and money. Then there's the onboarding and the training costs, so time spent by your senior managers and your peers and team members to actually like train up the new hire. There's, of course, lost productivity, in those early stages, because, a new hire, and particularly like if you have a bad hire, takes time to ramp them up, and they might not even reach that full level of productivity. And so they might actually require an extra level of coaching and mentoring and support, check-ins, all of those things in order to even get them to an average level of performance. And then there's also the cost on the other employees in the team that are having to compensate for that particular person's underperformance, delays in project timelines, all of those sort of things. There's the impact on team morale and team engagement, because, if you've got a bit of an underperformer or a bad hire, sometimes the rest of the team who are having to pick up the slack might start to feel a bit kind of frustrated and resentful. There might be a bit of a negative impact on the culture, decreased engagement. Sometimes, hopefully this doesn't happen to you, but sometimes you might even lose someone who doesn't want to have to pick up the slack for another person, and doesn't know why someone else is getting away with not performing. There's customer and reputation damage. So if you've got a bit of a bad fit, they might not be actually serving your customers in the way that you would want them to. They might be making errors, might lead to customer complaints. You might even lose customers. There might be negative reviews, or it might damage your brand. And then the last one is then once you let them go, the cost of replacing the employee again. So then you're going to have to go through the whole recruitment process again, the training, the onboarding, all of those things. And then there's this is not even to mention the time that you, as the senior leader or as the CEO or the business owner, has spent thinking about, worrying about, stressing about this particular employee. How many hours it's kept you up at night, you thinking about what to do about this employee, how to let them go, how to have the conversation, what to do about it. That hasn't even included all of this. So I know that I sound like a real negative Nancy right now. So this is so not my usual way. But the reason I want to share it is that it is a real legitimate, giant cost for your business, and that it's such a simple and easy solution to get it right. And that sometimes we do have to be shocked with some of the stats in order to really shift how we then change moving forward. So to sum all of that up, if a bad hire earns $100,000 a year, let's go with some simple maths here, the overall cost could be at least kind of 60 to 100 grand. Potentially more if it affects those high value clients or team turnover. And this is not me to be all doom and gloom, but it's the one piece that I hear from my clients over and over, that they just wish that they had known. And they say to me, God damn, Em, why did I do that? Why didn't I just slow down when it's, come to bite them in the butt later? And so that is why I just wanted to share this with you, because I want one thing that I hear a lot, and that I'm not disagreeing with in any way or form, is when business owners or CEOs will come to me and they'll say, yeah, but Em, I'm a really good people reader. I've just got a really good eye for who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. And I want to say that yes, indeed, you probably do have a very good read on people. And I would call myself a relatively good reader on people, even though sometimes I can be way too optimistic and give people way too much benefit of the doubt. So maybe I'm not actually. But one thing that I would say is that there are some things that even the best people readers just can't read during an interview process, because you're not given access to a certain suite of information just during an interview. So some candidates, yes, are great interviewees. So they show up to the interview and they are natural performers or people pleasers, and they know exactly what to say to get the job. They know how to connect. They're charismatic. They're really engaging. They know to laugh at your jokes, or like they know the things that you want to hear. And there's nothing against these people, but if we make a decision purely based on the information we receive during an interview, we're making an incomplete decision, right? And that's why I know, because I used to work for an executive headhunting firm, like an executive search business. And so they were they are like the top executive search firm in WA, if not Australia. And like learning from the top operators in Australia in terms of like what they look for, how they structure their assessment process, that is where I've taken all my learnings from. And the number one thing that they would share is that you can't just rely on one conversation to help you make a decision about who you are bringing into your family, who you are bringing into your home, who you are bringing into your business. Like, this is your baby, right? Your business is often like the thing that you have spent years and years and years cultivating, perfecting, pouring energy into. And so it makes sense to take the time to get that decision right on who you're going to bring in. Like, I had a client in the health sector that was looking for a senior manager for their business, and they met a beautiful, beautiful candidate, gorgeous, gorgeous human. They absolutely fell in love with this person during the interview and had just such a good vibe, and it felt so positive that they completely disregarded the usual structured interview process for how they usually hire. Like, they didn't do any of their reference checks. They didn't do personality profiling, no test project, trial day, anything like that. They just offered this person on the day and brought them in. And it ended up costing them 6 months of lost productivity, 6 months of frustration, 6 months of costs. And, fortunately, one real benefit for these guys is they do act fast. So when they recognize that this person was just not going to be the fit long term for them, they invested all of their time and energy and support and mentoring and coaching into this person to try and get them up to speed. And at the end of their probationary period, they made the decision quickly to let them go. So that was like, one, I guess, positive from this. But it did cost them. It cost them a lot of time, of energy, of lost productivity, of frustration in the process of coaching time, mentoring time. There was quite a significant impact on the team, on customers and reputation. And while this was like a beautiful, beautiful human that they brought into their business, this person just wasn't a fit for what the role required. And if they'd gone through a structured hiring process, they would have discovered that. And so this is not to shame anyone at all, because as I said before, I have made these mistakes as well. And this is my job. Like, I work in this industry, and that sometimes we just have to actually go through it to learn the experience the hard way. And there is a way out of it. Like, you are not alone if you have made this mistake. And I want to share how you can set yourself up for success so that human that you bring into your business is just the best one for you. And that is going to help your team thrive, that's going to help your business succeed, that is just going to feel like a match made in heaven. And a key piece of this is the beautiful balance between intuition and trusting your intuition and data. And I want to share a little sort of like inside story here, in that, so I have gone I don't know if you would say like I've done a full 360 on this, but I have definitely like explored both sides to the range of data versus intuition in making decisions. And so one of my first proper roles, like in a management consultancy, sort of like HR management, recruitment firm, you've probably heard me talk about this particular role, which was like a very, very like masculine sort of style work environment where all decisions were made very heavily based on data. There was a lot of actual kind of like laughing and kind of making fun of even like the idea of intuition. It was kind of, I don't know, like, yeah, not respected was like trusting your feelings or trusting your intuition or your gut. That was kind of like laughed at and made fun of, and that the smart way to make decisions was just to look at the data. Like, let's make a real, like a people decision. Let's make a people decision as data driven as possible. And I am not to say that you shouldn't use data in your hiring process. And I also believe that intuition is so, so powerful, and that we need to know how to really balance and use both. And so then I started that's where like my initial training came from, was like really data driven, very like much about like the numbers and the stats. And like we'd look at all the different assessment information from all these different sources during the hiring process. And we'd score each part, and then we'd give each candidate like a measure out of 5, and we'd look at the averages and metrics. It was like a very, very heady based decision. And then I started like consulting and coaching with these organizations that had the most thriving, fulfilling, nurturing, rich team cultures where their team was literally like the happiest, most innovative, most connected, like just beautiful, beautiful team cultures where people were bringing their whole selves to work, like unicorn businesses that I didn't even know existed. And when I spoke to them about and when I sort of witnessed how they were making hiring decisions, they were really, really, really heavily relying on their intuition. And I was like, hang on, this is going against everything that I have learned and known about hiring. And it really challenged my whole mindset on hang on, have I got it all wrong? And I was sort of coming in and saying, you need to do X, Y, Z, and you need to score all the candidates and blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, no, this is how we've always made decisions, is purely based on intuition. And so it kind of got me thinking, which one is it? Is it data or is it intuition? And I wonder what sort of comes up for you. What do you think? Because I guess what I have found to be true is that it is always both. And why that is because while I am a big, giant, massive whale of a fan for trusting your intuition, and that this has only got bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of my belief in this as I have developed in my career and my business, particularly as a mother, my intuition has just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. That kind of sense of all knowing, I wouldn't be able to even tell you logistically how I might know something or why I might do something. It's just an intuitive knowing that drives decision-making for me now. While that intuition piece is so, so strong, and I really, really vouch for that, you can't hire based on intuition alone because you can't get all the information from just one single source of an interview or whatever. You need multiple sources of information to come in. And that is how we balance out that kind of heart intuition and head logistical business making, decision making, right? Because when it comes to business, we do need both, right? When it comes to business, yes, we need to trust our intuition. And we also need to make sure that we're making logistically and strategically smart decisions. So we do need both if you want to have a successful business. So how do we do this then? I have a real high level hiring strategy one pager, which I'm super happy to share with you. Anyone that wants a copy of this, it's like a beautiful, like 1-page document which summarizes all of this. So just send me a DM on Instagram at Emma_Lou_Campbell, or send me an email at hello@emmacampbell.com.au and I can send that one to you. But essentially what it takes you through is like the key steps for a really successful hiring process. And the key ones that I want to share with you right now is that step 1 is about knowing what role you are hiring for before you go to market. So know what role you're hiring for, know what the business ultimately needs, know what role success looks like, and get really clear on what that dream, ideal role looks like and how that high performance actually looks like before you try and find someone, because it'll make that decision so much easier and it will help you attract the right candidate. And versus the opposite of this would just be like hiring a lovely person, like someone that you get along with really well and that you vibe with and that it feels really good, but that ultimately you have no idea whether that person is actually going to be the right fit for what your business needs and what your culture needs, because you haven't defined that piece first. Does that make sense? So step 1 is know what you need first. So get really clear on like, what is the actual like role success profile? What does that actually look like? So say, for example, I recently hired an online business manager for my business. And I must admit, and this is just me showing that I don't get it right all the time, like during one of the interviews with one of the candidates, I really fell in love with one particular candidate. She was just so lovely. We got along so well. We really gelled, and I just like felt all warm and fuzzy all over. And I just remember thinking, gosh, she's just so lovely. I'd love to work with her, you know? But when I kind of like stepped away from that for a second and I actually thought about what does my business actually really need to thrive and succeed, knowing that this is not just about me making a new friend, even though, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but, you know, what does my business actually need to thrive? And when I looked at that piece, I recognized that there were other candidates that were, you know, equally lovely and beautiful, but that had experience, know-how, all of the things that were more aligned to what the business outcomes that I needed achieved were. And the reason I was able to so clearly differentiate between the two was because I had been like rock solid on what those role success outcomes were and what I needed and what the business needed to survive. So one of the questions I get asked a little bit, which is kind of on this topic, is, you know, like, should you hire friends? Like, you've got like a wonderful, lovely friend that you just love, and should you hire them? Should you bring them into the business? And I think this is such a wonderful question, and I'm going to be really annoying and say that, like, it depends. It depends, because so I work with lots of businesses that, like, so the partnership itself, like the business partnership, they are best friends or they are husband and wife. I have worked with businesses that have hired couples as part of their like marketing team, that have hired husbands and wives within the same organization, that have hired literally like brothers and sisters, like family, best friends. And the one thing that I'll say is sometimes it works really, really beautifully well. It like adds to the depth of the relationships and the feeling of family within the culture. It creates that sense of like community and belonging and connectedness. So sometimes it can work really, really beautifully and well. and sometimes it doesn't. So the ones that work really well, the things that they have done well is that first and foremost, they had a really well-established culture, values, standards, expectations of behavior. They were really great, open and honest communicators when things weren't going to plan. They had clearly defined structures and policies in place for like how they did things and how things were managed. They had clear expectations up front, shared values, all of the things. The ones that didn't go so well were often the ones that had issues in terms of like avoiding having the difficult conversations early and upfront. Avoided those things, and then it ended up leading to resentment and ultimately relationships breaking down and rupturing. So the thing that I would say is that if you are thinking about hiring a friend for your business, set some really, really clear expectations, boundaries, all of the things up front. Like there is no such thing as over communication at that starting kind of hiring onboarding phase. And if things start to feel funky or off, or if you start to notice any issues, address them so fast. Like set that norm for having open and honest, like radical honesty from the get-go, because it'll either make your relationship stronger or it'll set that person in another direction faster before your relationship ruptures, rather than it going down the path of like it, leading to a relationship breakdown, which is ultimately what you don't want if you're hiring a friend for your business. So that was just like a little side note because I've been asked that question before, and so I wanted to answer that within here. So step one in your like success hiring process is know what role you're hiring for first. So hire for role first and then find a beautiful human to fit that role, rather than the other way around, rather than just trying to find find a great human and then trying to make the role fit them. That's a more difficult process to go through. So first, know what role it is that you need and then find an amazing human to fulfill that role. Step two, attract the best top talent. So I want to offer a little bit of a mindset reframe here to actually think of like finding the right one for your business. Think of it as if you were actually trying to like find or market or attract like your most dream client. Because ultimately you are pitching your incredible team to this candidate, right? And so you want to make sure when you're going through your like advertising or attraction process, you want to make sure that you're actually showing how great your company is to work at, your team is to work at. Like share all the amazing benefits of all the cool things that you guys do. Like if you have team building activities, or if you had like a really cool remuneration structure or incentives, or if you have an amazing high performing team or a great culture or your values or career opportunities or like flexible work opportunities, make sure you're sharing all of that cool stuff to them during the advertising phase or during that attraction phase. And make sure you're sharing it in the right places. So, we don't, the whole like working world and how people find work has changed, right? We're not just looking on Seek these days. We are on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we are on a whole bunch of different pages like Reddit, all of the things. And we're also talking to our friends. So we're getting referrals, we're on LinkedIn. So really think about all of these different places in terms of who you want to attract. And if you want like really, really good talent, and you do, right? You want the best talent possible for your business, think about where you can share these opportunities or who you can share them with within your network so that you can actually attract and really magnetize in that super high performer. And then the key last step here is something that I think a lot of business owners forget. And that is around when you go through that assessment process, make sure that you're looking at whether they are a fit to, yes, the role, but primarily, are they a fit to your values and your culture, your ethos, your belief system, your vision? Because my belief is that you want to hire 80% for values and 20% for that kind of technical role fit element. Because you can't train values, right? You can train skills, but you can't train values. So during your assessment process, you really want to make sure that you are building in questions within your interview process that are actually checking in on whether they feel excited about where you are headed as a business, like the vision that you're headed towards, the values and the belief system that you stand for, how your team shows up. All of those kind of that culture and team piece is so integral for whether they are going to be a good fit for you long term. And the other piece that I'd say within here is, I've mentioned it a couple of times already, is you don't just want to have one interview that's like a feel-good chat. You want to have a phone screen. You want to have an outcomes-based structured interview that has structured questions based on the key success pieces to the interview or the outcomes of the role. You want to have references, you want to have some sort of personality profiling. And one thing I'm a really big fan of is some sort of test project, because this gives you a real indication of how they think, how they work, how they solve problems. And there's no better evidence of whether they're going to be a good fit for you than actually seeing them present real live, information that they have developed and created. And you actually get to see that and make your decision based on that real, true work data. You know what I mean? And if you've got a mixed bag of these different sources of information, that's what's going to help you make the best decision for who you bring into that business. And that's where you can actually beautifully balance data and intuition, because trust that beautiful intuition. And at the end of that process, you might actually so if you wanted to get real fancy, you could put a table together, put down your candidate names on one side, and then a few boxes along the top of role fit, culture fit, vision fit, that sort of thing, and score them out of 5. And so you might finish that process of actually scoring these candidates, and there might be one candidate who got the highest score, but still your intuition points you towards another person. And that's okay. That's okay to make that decision that actually you're choosing your intuition over what the data says, because you've got all of the information there. So your intuition will be more accurate based on the fact that you've got more data. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's maybe a really good tip that I can leave you with today, is the fact that intuition gets more accurate the more information we give it. So if you're unsure, and maybe you're going through a hiring process right now and you're tossing up between 2 particular candidates, and the thing that I would offer to you is that if it hasn't become a hell yes or a hell no for you yet, I would invite you to get some form of extra information, because usually that's your system telling you I haven't got enough information yet. So go and get them to do a trial project or a little take-home assignment or something extra. Have another chat with them with some more structured interview questions, because the more information you get, the more accurate your intuition will be. So I hope that you found this episode today truly valuable, and that it has shifted your whole mindset on how seriously you take your hiring process moving forward, and where that whole ethos of hire slow, fire fast comes from. Because let's be honest, no one likes to fire. It's not fun. And so we want to, set ourselves up to avoid having to do as many firings as possible. And how we do that is by hiring really slow and making sure that we are finding the most incredible, best fit humans for our businesses, because your business matters and your business is worth it, right? And one incredible hire can make such a difference, and one bad hire can also be incredibly damaging. And so these are the tips that I've given you to help you maximize the benefits and decrease the costs. And I hope that it has served you so much. Once again, if you want a copy of any of these templates that I have mentioned, feel free to reach out to me. Some of my details are below in the show notes below. And I wish you all the best in your hiring process. So much love. Thank you so much for listening. If you got value from this episode, I've got a little request for you. Either share it with a fellow leader who you know needs this in their life, or leave a super quick review. It only takes a few seconds, yet it helps us so much in expanding our reach and our impact and bringing on even bigger names onto the potty to then inspire your growth and your journey. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you in advance, and I can't wait to see you next time.